So let's get into it. We've got some really good questions here. I'm just gonna get into it. I'm gonna have it answered all the way down, and then it will come back to me, and that's just the way we'll do it. I've got some good questions here. So here's the first question, and I think it's honestly one of the most important is how do you approach building and maintaining relationships with potential private investors?
So, when it comes to private investors, it's really understanding what kind of investor you're speaking with. In my mind, you're speaking with two types. You're either speaking with the investor that is about wealth conservation and wealth preservation or wealth creation. One has a bigger risk appetite, the other one doesn't. They're rich, they want to protect their principal, they want to limit their downside as much as possible. So for those, I wouldn't be leveraging as much or doing a deal where I am taking, 90% leverage, 10% down. On those deals, I'd probably be doing 50, 60% down, financing all the construction with just investor money, no loans. And that's how I've done most of our deals. Um, did we do any 40, 50, 60% gains last year when market was crazy? No. But when we did get stuck with some of the deals, we didn't have, 12, 14% interest rates that we had to pay for. And now we can't sell the house, you can't refinance, and now you're in a position where you won't be able to return their principal. So that's really been my strategy is identifying, what kind of investor you're speaking with. The wealth preservation ones, you need to pitch and approach them that way. It's like, how do we maintain you rich while making some money, protecting your downside? And then when you're talking to wealth, appreciation and creation, you can talk to them about the riskier deals, the leverage that you can take, the 40, 60%, high risk, high reward. It's very, very basic economics, low risk, low reward. And once you understand that, you can kind of gear your pitch and the certain deals, right? So you'll have certain deals that you'll present to one group, certain deals you present to another.
Another thing that's really important when you're trying to build a relationship with a lender is leveraging your reputation. And it's important to, even if it's just a reputation on paper, you have to have a good website, you have to have a good elevator speech. We started out with our own funding, but very quickly we saw that we needed other people's money too, OPM. And that only came on the back of having had some successes. And if you don't have your own successes, find someone that you can partner with, that you can say, my partner has had these successes and therefore they are mine as well. And I think that your reputation will help you build a relationship faster than anything else. Having a web presence, having, a good product to show to people, because if you don't have those very basic elements, people don't believe that you are for real. Nobody's going to lend you $50,000 or $300,000 or $1 million if you don't have really basic things. And again, there are people in this room who you can partner with, who can say, hey, I have somebody who has money, but I don't have the reputation to go and say, hey, I've done 5 flips. But these people have done 20 flips. They've had good success. They've never lost money, so these are my partners. And I think that that's probably the most important point, is to leverage either your reputation or somebody else's reputation to go and get money and build that reputation with somebody.
Another thing, underwrite your lender. You want to know what is the source of that money. That almost happened to us. We were funding an operation, and we have a private money lender who came to us in a very harsh terms, and that raised all the flags. And when we started doing our due diligence, the guy was flagged for the OFAC. The OFAC it's a office for control of, basically, if you're violating the sanctions of the U.S. government imposed to international citizens. So it was a very close call for us to understand that you need to know who's putting money into your business. The fact that they have the cash or the available on account, it doesn't make them automatically your partners. You want to know if they sold a company, if they sold a house, if they source this money from somebody else who lended it. It doesn't matter. They're taking the responsibility for you. Cool. But I need to know the truth behind that money, because I don't want to get flagged in a transaction from the Clinton list, from the State Department or the Treasury Department, coming after me and asking me why I'm partnered with this guy from another country. They don't even know because this happened. Okay. And this almost happened in this market last year. So do your due diligence. If you partner with somebody, that people want to know about you. If they don't want to know about you, another red flag. He's dropping money on the streets. He doesn't care about losing money. So you have to understand also who's lending you. What are the terms? If he's doing a preservation, if he's doing if he's trying to grow his capital, and also how's he gonna get paid? He's gonna get paid quarterly, monthly, by the end of the deal. He's gonna drop it up in the entire loan. It changes dramatically the structure of the payment and how you structure the deal.
Cool. Yeah, I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach because of how I've personally raised private money is through social media. So I want to talk a little bit about that, right? That's honestly, that's the main reason I'm on this stage right now is I'm so socially media active. I'm constantly making reels, I'm constantly putting myself out there. And so it is, in my opinion, one of the easiest ways for private capital to naturally come to you because you're building a relationship with your audience. They learn your humor, they learn the way you speak, they learn the way you do business, you show them deals, and it's a way to amplify everything you're already doing and showing it to everybody who's following you. I've raised all of my private money, almost all of it, except for my mom. My mom gave me 25,000. Apart from her, everything has come from social media. People seeing like, "Hey, you're awesome. I love your vibe. I want to do deals with you. How do I do that?" I'm like, "Great. Who are you? Like, what are you like? What do you do? What are you looking for?" It's like, "Oh, I'm a nurse. I make 100K a year. I don't really know how to get into real estate." And then I go, "Okay, what part of real estate attracts you to it? Passive cash flow. Okay. Raise your hand if you own a rental in here. Raise your hand. Is it actually passive? If you guys are if you're managing it, you know that's not passive. There is a lot that goes into managing a rental, right? Like anything can happen. The tenant can destroy the toilet randomly. All sorts of weird stuff can happen. All of you know it if you own a rental. It's not actually passive. There's only one thing in real estate that I know that's actually passive, and that's lending. That's like the only thing where it's like I actually receive a check every single month. I put money out and then I receive a check every single month. So those types of people, I'll be like, okay, if you're actually going for true passive, trust me, you're gonna buy your first rental. It's gonna be annoying. You're gonna have to actually do a ton of work that's gonna take you away from your nursing, from your kids, all of that type of stuff, right? And it's just not gonna be fun. So I think that's an amazing way to pitch private money lending is you guys should be all doing social media. I see a few people recording right now. Good job, good on you guys because it is 100% going to propel your career in everything, deals, private money, everything. And then two, when someone comes to you, start thinking about, okay, what is this person's problem? What is this person looking for? Don't think about I want money, think about what do they need, right? There'll be different types of investors. If I understood that correctly, you mainly do equity, like you give them equity, right? The nurse who wants like a safer return might not feel as comfortable with that and rather go into like I don't know, like a different one where it's just interest, right? Or there might be someone who has more of an appetite for it and is like, "Ooh, I like the big check. I want the big check on the development," right? So you really got to identify what is that person looking for? You should do this all the time if you're in real estate investing. Do it with everything, not just private money raising, everything, deals. What are they? What are they looking for? If you can provide it to them, then you're going to be, if you provide everyone around you value, you're going to make so much money. It's insane. It's just going to happen, right? So it goes the same thing into private money raising as what do they need? Is private money raising really what they're looking for? And they've just never heard of it before because it's something that a lot of people haven't heard of. Most people hear of owning rentals. That's how I get passive income and that's how I build my wealth. And that's not necessarily the right move for everybody. I think it's a really good idea to become a lender. So that's my 2 cents on that. So real quick, can you share a successful case study of how you convinced a private investor to invest in one of your real estate projects?
So going back to kind of where you were saying, it's really understanding why they want to get in, right? It's like, why do you need to make money? It's like, okay, you love money, great. So do we, so do I. But why is it that you need to make that $1,000 a month or that $10,000 a month? In my case, it was a semi-retired individual who was in medical sales. He had 250K. He wanted to lend on a deal, and for him, it was mostly just education for their daughters that wanted to learn about flipping. He didn't really care about the money. He's like, if in the process I get to make money, great. As long as you don't lose it, even better. But there's nothing more rewarding than being able to have them make money and then also pass them along the experiences of the flip. Or, that money symbolized the fact that they could now, go on that vacation, or that they can now put more towards retirement. So it's really understanding the backstory behind why they want to make money and then making that connection that will make it a lot easier for you to raise money from them. Everybody wants to do business with people that they like. Everybody wants to do business with people that can connect, the money to the story.
Understand who your investor is. Jose and I went to look at a house that was an off-market opportunity, and we found out that the owner of the house was going to be there. And so you can use on PropStream, which is a real estate platform, you can use that to find out who the owner is. And you can link, there's like a link properties function. So you can find out what other properties they own. And we saw that this gentleman owned like $10 million of real estate in Denver. And so we did a little bit of research on him, and I went to that property very educated. I drove by the comps. I was very educated. So he was impressed that I had done my homework, because there had been 10 other investors there who hadn't, kind of walked through nonchalantly. And I told him, I said, come see some of our properties. I knew he had money because he had bought that house cash, and he was sitting on it to pull permits and sell it to the next person. And so I said, why don't you come to another property? And so he came to one of our flips. He liked what he saw, and I said, are you interested? And I just was very straight with him. I said, I'm looking for a private money lender. You obviously have cash. Let's partner. And he had obviously seen our website. He'd done all these things, but I was very straightforward with him. But I had done my homework on him, and I had educated myself beforehand, and it worked really well. And I think another thing that is very important, I have another one of my private money lenders right here, Don. He has partnered with us on 2 projects in different modalities. One just straight interest, and then another we kind of structured an equity deal that ended up being a straight interest too. But you have to be nice to these people. They're investing in you as a person. They want to believe in you as a person. They want you to be successful. In addition to them making money, they see in you a potential, obviously, for their financial gain, but they see your kids. They see, I don't know, Don's met my kids. He brought my son a birthday gift, because he couldn't make it to the party. And that's just kind of how we are. And I think that if you can make that connection, you don't have to be friends with everybody, but if you can show them that you're a person, they want you to be successful too. And I think that if you can make them believe in you, then they're more willing to invest in you.
I think beside the people that out of all the harmony lenders and all the people that we work with, there are a particular case that truly stuck to me. And it's when we start doing construction, one of the guys who was working with me, who was basically, I started being the guy who was cleaning the job sites in my own renovations, but I want to be involved. I want to learn. I want to try to understand how long it will take to paint a room. Why the rules say it will take 2 days, maybe just for putting the papers, and actually the painting is really fast. So it turns out it takes more time to wrap the house and protect when you're painting, but those are the only things that you only can learn when you're in the job sites. So these are the people that suddenly they start taking care of me because I was at jeopardy for the job site. I started doing things and they were like, okay, Jose, I know you're the owner of this, but no. Stop doing it. You're going to hurt yourself. We need you to be doing something else. They start guiding us in that process. And that created a very healthy relationship with them to the degree that the last job, I was looking for a private money lender for the down payment. And I turned back to him and I said, did you finally pull out your HELOC? And he looked at me like, you finally ask. And I'm like, "Did you put the HELOC already?" Yes, I do have the HELOC. Well, you're gonna be the partner on the next job site. And it turns out the guy who's painting and doing the job normally is absolutely the coordinator of the selling of the equity of the any part of the process. He has a second position in that title. He's a partner with us, and he's having an equity position where we're dividing because he is a full active partner day after day in that job site. So they're very motivated. Yeah, first time he does an investment in real estate. He's been doing fix and flip for the last 30 years, him and his brothers, and they've never been in the title. So it was okay. This is the right time. I need somebody who can fund this, and if you can do it, I know you're gonna paint this with more heart than ever. I know you're gonna be there every Saturday. I know you're gonna be there also every Sunday when you're not supposed to. But they put more heart and love on this. So out of your own community, out of the people surrounding you, you can connect with them and you can start planning you can start explaining them how they can start unpacking money sitting on them. Okay. A lot of people are holding a lot of cash. Yes, that's really easy. What about the equity that you're holding in your rentals? What about the equity that you're holding in your main house that you're not moving and you suddenly have $400,000 in equity and that can go away? I can tell you something. On last cycle of the market, we got an asset that we holded up to 850. I had an appraisal on hand for 850 and ended up closing at 700. So market adjust, market change, and that equity that you hold in that asset can be today, may not be tomorrow. So what makes you think that you should be holding that like a treasure because they won't change? Wait until the next politician start running in your city council and decide to change the law. How you're gonna see that equity disappear? Or maybe bounce back more. You don't know, but you're taking for granted thinking that holding the value of your main asset there and not moving and protecting, good luck with it.
So I'm gonna share a story that I think was just a really good one in general. This was a very old friend of mine from college, and this is why I love social media so much because your social media, a lot of them, if you've had social media for a long time, there'll be people that you haven't talked to in 5, 6, 7 years, right? She was a very good friend of mine back in the day in college. We just like life happened, didn't like keep talking, but she kept seeing all of my reels talking about real estate investing. Her parents had a kind of an Airbnb, basically an Airbnb, like in California, in like the northern part of California. And she always knew real estate investing was the way of becoming wealthy. She's a chemical engineer. She spends like 9 or 10 hours at her job every single day. And she just had no idea how to start in it. And she saw that I was doing it. So I was like, so she came to me and was like, Jonah, like, I love what you're doing. Long time no see. We caught up just in general, went through old stories, yada, yada. And then she was like, so, like, how do you feel like I should get my first rental? Right. And this came back to my story of what I was talking about earlier, where it's like, okay, but why do you want to own a rental? Because in my head, the story didn't make sense. You have a job for 10 hours a day. You told me you don't have time to do real estate investing. And she's like, no, but my parents owned an Airbnb, and like now it's worth $1 million because it's California. They bought it for $200,000. I'm like, understood. How much work did they have to put into that every single week, all the time? How much were they working on that? It's like constantly, she told me. It's like, how often was that a headache, just generally? It's like, oh, it was horrible sometimes. Sometimes they'd be arguing about it in the kitchen, right? In front of like her, in front of like when she was like 10 or something like that, right? These things can cause discords in families if you're not ready for it. People jump into these things and they're not ready for businesses. These are businesses. Owning a rental is a business. Owning an Airbnb is really owning a business, right? So I talked to her about that. I'm like, look, like it is going to be work. You're already overstressed. Why is it that you really want to own real estate? Like, tell me. It's like, wealth generation and passive cash flow. I'm like, great. Let me tell you about another way that you can do this where you still keep your, I guess for her it was like 9 to 7, and you keep doing that. And instead of having something that's distracting from your life, from your boyfriend, from everything you've got going on, if you want to just invest with me on my projects, I'll give you 10% on your returns. I'll pay you monthly. You'll just get a monthly check. You don't have to know. You can, like, if you want to know about the real estate project, I'll let you know. I'll give you whatever you want, right? But if you want to just live your life and just make a bunch of money, this is actually how you do it, right? And she's really smart, and she was talking to me. It's like, okay, but what about the stock market? What about that? I'm like, okay, so the stock market's going to give you an average of 8 to 10% over your lifetime, and you don't get that money in for 30 years, right? You don't get any of that money for 30 years. I'm going to give you the upper end of that, and you get that money now, every single month, right? Eventually, if you keep investing with me and you keep making money, you'll be able to live off this money, right? That's number one. And then number two, any other investment you have, whether it's crypto or any of that, you're just going to lose all your money. Like, I promise you, you're going to lose all of your money. Like, it's going to happen. Even in the stock market, if you buy the S&P 500, good on you if that's the only thing you're buying. But if you're buying other stocks, there's going to be one that goes bankrupt at some point in your life. Like, I just guarantee it's going to happen, right? So having these conversations and like making them understand what's the best option for them is how you do it. I was talking to a few people in here earlier, and they asked me in different words, like, I'm having trouble convincing people to trust me with their money. And I'm like, well, the issue is you're not talking to their problem. Always, in everything in business, whether you're selling them something, whether you're raising private money, whether you're buying their house, you have to be somehow solving their problem and helping out their life in some sort of way. And really keeping that in your mind will make you successful in everything, including raising private money. And she lent me $25K for down payment on a house in Colorado Springs I own right now. And she gets a monthly check of $208. And that's the first one. It's been going great. And she's like, all right, Jonah, I think I got another $25K for you. And I'm like, great. Right. And I was pretty good friends with her 6 or 7 years ago, but I haven't talked to her in 5 years. So she was a friend, but even so, that's why I really like social media. Is the issue a lot of times too is people ask for money from other real estate investors. I don't know if I have a question for this, but the issue with other real estate investors is they want a lot of money. You guys are greedy as hell, right? I've asked all of you guys for money. You're all greedy, including me, right? If somebody has me for money, I'm like, well, I need like 15% interest and 10% of the equity or something like that, right? Because I need my money for my other stuff, right? So I just love social media, and we might do another meetup where we talk about social media more, but like that's the way where you get people who aren't in real estate, and that's what you guys really need in order to get the returns that make them deals as well. So yeah, let me get to the next question here. So what strategies do you employ to identify potential private investors, especially those who align with your investment philosophy?
So when I'm looking for investors, you kind of touched on it. I definitely use my past experience to speak for like my future, abilities to return capital. Um, I've definitely gone and talked and spoken to funds. Since some of the deals we do are large enough, especially if we are funding it all from acquisition through construction on a new build with construction prices. I mean, you're going to spend $1 million, $2 million easily if you're building, a sizable townhouse project. So once you start reaching that size, being able to speak to family offices and local funds is important. But with that, you gotta have, a history and experience of doing flips. That's definitely not how I started. I am pretty active on social media, and same story. You have friends from college that have given me $25,000. You do right by them, then they're gonna give you another 25, the same 25 they gave you the first time plus a little more. And then from there, you ask the investor that you've already made money, and ask them for introductions. They know other people with money, and if you do right by them, they're going to introduce you to their friends, and it only takes, 4 or 5 good investors that have, 250K liquid. They each have 4 or 5 friends, and then before you know it, you've got, 10, 15 investors. Does not take much from a capital perspective, it does, but from a relationship building perspective, it really doesn't take much. 5 guys can introduce you to another 5, and then there you go. You got 25 people that all can give you $100,000, and now you can really get to work.
That's all super smart, Alex. That's one area that Jose and I, we feel like we're in like our second circle right now. We've done friends and family, and now we're kind of in, the acquaintances phase, and we are very interested in starting a fund, but we have not gone to, talk to funds and knocked on doors of, places that have a whole lot more money. And that's just really, really smart. We haven't had a need for that yet, but, we would love to get into development, and I love that idea, but we're kind of in that second circle right now. And then our next step is to really go bigger, and we're currently educating ourselves on that. And I mean, I guess what I can offer to that is really just educate yourself on where the money is.
I can tell you something that one of the most um, sensitive funds that we ever raised was 75,000 out of a whole life insurance policy that somebody have to pick up for their husband. And they come to us and they say, I have $75,000 and this is the entire saving of my life and my family. Do not lose it. We make it grow, we give it back, we pay it back. And they call us back recently. We haven't been able to cash in the opportunity. Do you mind holding that amount for us again, and let's structure a deal, because this money, even though belong to me, it's better in your hand than in my hands. This is not the money is paying our bills. This is the money that is funding projects for the cruise and projects that we're using to do the acquisitions and projects that, and these are funds that are very well destined. And the main thing is just you need to know your investors as well that can be your clients. When you're doing a fix and flips, you're imagining somehow that people are going to be living there. Well, guess what? You have to visualize about where your investors are. Yeah, I know I cannot never do that phone call. I will take a loss on the project. I will liquidate an asset. I will do whatever I have to do to never get a phone call to tell that family they lost the $75,000 that was paid off after the father died. Because we take that seriously. And that's the importance of knowing your client. People are going to be investing on you. Yes, they want to see guaranteed. They want to see an LLC. They want to see a social media. They want to know that it's not just you doing your thing in a computer. They want to know they're more than that. And that's where most of the time they get the first stop. But guess what? We started from there. And what we did, we partnered with people that we know. And we told them, he's working with me, he's partnering with me, he's vouchering with me for me. Then so people start believing in us. And then so at some point we did ourselves the project, and we're okay, we did this above ourselves. We don't need somebody else vouchering. We don't, and we already done X, Y, Z projects, and now you can start looking at us, and you can start raising, and you can start lending monies to us. So two things: if you know your clients, you're gonna understand how they're gonna get paid. The other thing is, absolutely, you need to know where the money is. The money is not in every place. It's not something it's very well known, famous that money tend to not be distributed equally. So what makes you think that you can find money in every single place? You need to know where money plays, where money think, where money spend time, and you need to go over there and do not approach them. They need to see you. You need to be present, you need to talk to them, you need to interact, and you cannot be asking for money in the first approach. You have to build a relationship knowing that maybe down the road, they may be interested in investing in something like that. And you cannot get offended for a no. You get offended for a no, this is not your job, okay? Actually, the first rational decision that every single investor should make is tell you no. And your next question is, what is the price of that no? Because price is satisfaction. If you pay and he doesn't get satisfied, you haven't paid enough. And that pays you for renovations. That's talking about working with your workers. That takes you when you're doing an acquisition. If you pay too little, they will not give you deed. That already happened to me. I got somebody under contract, very deep in the contract. They couldn't get away from that contract, and they fought the hell to get out of the contract. I have to let them go out of the contract. So it cost them a ton of money. It wasn't for cheap. It wasn't easy, but it gives you back to the reflection the price is satisfaction. If you don't pay enough money, if you don't pay the right quantity, where the people working with you, the people buying from you, where everybody's involved in getting satisfaction, you're taking money from them. And that's always going to be perceived. So that's why when we're trying to do an acquisition for a fix and flip, and I know we're going to be selling it in a entry position market, I cannot be I cannot be comping for the highest and best comp in the market. I have to comp for the average, and I have to make money to them and for me in a position where they're buying a fix and flip for me after 4 months. I'm making money where they're getting a good deal in this market. And if you don't understand that, this is not your business. This is about getting satisfaction in every single piece of the equation.
So my answer to this of like, how do you identify potential investors? I think, I don't know if you guys have heard of this phrase, to a hammer, what is everything? Do you guys know this? Who knows the answer? Say it. A nail, right? So usually I think that phrase is don't be a hammer. In this case, be a hammer. If you're looking for private money, look for it. Be aware around you. Meet everyone and be like, okay, could this person be a private money investor? Are they my nail for what I'm trying to do? Right? If you have it in your mind, it's weird how the universe just shows it to you. It comes to you, whatever it is, right? When I've needed private money, especially, that's when it really comes to me because then I start talking about it way more. And the more you talk about whatever you're doing or whatever you're looking for, the more it's going to come to you, right? So I'm gonna leave it at that just because everything I get is social media and I've already talked about that. So I just remember be a hammer when it comes to private money. I think that's the best way to find it. So how do you how do you demonstrate the value and potential returns of your real estate investment opportunities to potential private investors? I like this question especially because a lot of these people aren't in real estate. So, like, if somebody actually wants to know about the deal, do you break down all the numbers? Do you do something else? Like, how do you guys do that?
Yeah, so primarily, obviously, Excel. So I show them on Excel. You got to know how to use Excel. If you're going to raise money, it's like step one, get a course, figure out how to do Excel. I've seen people butcher it and, or they're using a calculator and then hard coding the number. Like if you're doing that, you got to get to the basics. But typically when we're running numbers, we stress test it in our performance. We're doing a, failure, success, home run scenario. Each scenario has different price points of your exit. On the failure side, you're going to be 10% lower than what you projected. Your construction will have gone over budget. Your timeline will have, gone over the estimated days. And in that scenario, we make sure that we're still able to squeeze out at least 2-3%. So we're breaking even, we're getting out of it. And that factors in then also your loan, your fees, your loan origination fees, your interest rates. And then on the success side, you're just putting in your projections, your actual, what you're shooting for. And then on the home run, you're not shooting for the home run, but the home runs did happen back in, last year, previous year. That's all we were hitting were home runs. So that's where we're making 18, 20, 30% on your money. And then now the conversation around those, when I do those presentations or when I send out those performas, is I tell investors like we're going to get more successes. We're not going to see those home runs. Don't ask me about them. It's not going to happen. And if they do, it'll be a good surprise. But primarily, it's stress testing the model and making sure that even in the worst case, you're going to make money or at least break even. And then on the best case, you're getting those double-digit returns.
So we have not done equity deals like Alex is talking about. All of our private money has been just straight interest. Well, they have a deed of trust against a property. Some of our private investors it's a promissory note for the amount, but most of them are a deed of trust against a specific project. So we haven't done equity deals like that, but it depends on who it is. If it's someone who works in real estate, they often will underwrite our numbers. We'll send them our comps, we'll send them our rehab budget. They can look at the numbers themselves and make sense of it. When we put together a project, we will have actually, Jose, there's a software actually called Deal Check Is that what it's called? Yeah. It's an app on the iPhone. It's a really great app, and you can do your rehab budget directly in the app, and it'll spit out a really nice report, and you can then throw your logo on it, and so you can give that to investors and say, like, here's all the numbers, literally down to like the detailed rehab budget, so they can see what your numbers are. And I think that's really effective way for people who understand, even a little bit about real estate, to be able to underwrite your numbers. If it's friends and family, those friends and family are not, they're not actually investing in specific deals. They're just kind of in the general fund. And then we just have promissory notes with them. And that one is really like, they're just working off faith and our reputation. Like I said, we don't have the as specific of the pro forma, because we're not offering equity. I mean, those that would just depend on what type of a project it is. But that's what we have been using in really convincing people to invest with us.
I think I'm gonna pass in this because I have a very long answer, so it's fine.
Mine, honestly, with all of my private money deals, just because of the nature of it, none of them, like, I'll explain generally what I'm doing with the property, but I've never had to actually break down the numbers yet. I mean, he's getting like funds and stuff, and you guys are getting like actual like card money lenders and stuff like that. But like for those of like, for all the ones who like come out to me, like I just talk about more like them and what they need and what they're going to get. And usually, at least for me, that's been enough. I'll tell them, like, what am I going to do with the house? Like, just so that they know, right? And they feel comfortable with it. And if they ever wanted to, I would. But most of them, by the time I'm done talking to them, are just like, no, like, that sounds great. I want the 10%. I'm like, great. Sounds good. Right. And I'll obviously tell them it's in second position and all that. And there's a deed of trust. I also am like you guys, I do interest only. But at least for me, with my with my investors right now, I haven't needed to yet. Just that's the honest answer. Um, so what steps do you take to ensure transparency and trust between you and your private investors throughout the investment process? How do you keep it transparent, and how do you keep that trust going as maybe something comes up in the project, or like other things could be happening? Maybe it's longer than what you said it would be. How do you keep that trust going? How do you keep that transparency?
So in regards to trust and transparency, I mean, similar with the deed of trust and the promissory notes, like all of our investors are owners in the LLC that's going to own the property. They get those documents, they get the operating agreements, they get to see that it's registered with the Secretary of State. So they have that in their possession, and they know that I'm not buying property in my name using their money, which it happens. People do that, and then that becomes a huge mess to unwind and try to repossess that property. It's possible, but it's a huge legal mess. So that's step one on kind of transparency, accountability. When it comes to the construction process, I come more from the private equity space, and then kind of learned more about flipping and doing my own business through construction. So I became a licensed general contractor. So I have some say and control on like what's going on in construction, and I make them do kind of daily reports and daily logs. So all of our investors, part of each deal, will get a report submitted either by me or our site superintendents, or even some of our subcontractors that are have worked for us for a very long time. They'll submit photos of what's going on, so we kind of keep them approved of like the journey of like the project, so they can see where it's at, and then of course they can stop by. But some of these people are out of state. And then on some of our larger projects, we did do full, marketing. We had drone shots going at foundation, drone shots at framing, drones at completion, and doing video walkthroughs. Because the numbers are great, but everybody loves to see progress. Like you gave them a peek behind the scenes, like it's an HGTV, episode that they're a part of. So people love that, and that's something we've really done, is to like market the project and like have them be involved with photos and videos.
I think that the answer to the question is in the question, is just being transparent. If you feel like there's something that's going to go wrong, if it's going to take longer, just communicate that. They don't want to be blindsided by, delays or, running out of money. I have a situation right now where we recently bought a house in Mexico, and my lender in Mexico told us 7 days before we were supposed to close that they couldn't close for 45 days. So I had to scramble and find $376,000 in 7 days. And so I talked to one of my private money lenders here, and he was able to provide the funding for that. And he cross collateralized against properties here in the United States because he obviously has no legal rights really to that property in Mexico. And so the cash out refi process in Mexico has been very long. And so I talk to him pretty much every single week. Sorry, I'm still working on this. They're waiting on this document. They have to start a new trust because this, in Mexico, you have to hold property in trust as a foreigner. This trust won't do a cash out. Just so many problems, and he's fine. But he did at this point on this last one, and the note had already come due, and he said, this is an inconvenience to me. Of course, he's still making money. He bumped the interest rate up. And I was okay on that. He's still giving me the money. I'm still going to be able to do my cash out refi. I'm going to pay him a couple more $1,000s over the course of the next few months than I would have, but it's still a win-win situation. I still have his money. He's still getting money. He feels more confident in the investment. And, at the end of the day, it's just about being transparent with them.
Don't hide anything. Honestly, if you feel there's something uncomfortable with the project, don't hide it. Go and talk to them. Be honest with them. Be transparent. They're gonna bring their lawyers. Their lawyers are gonna make a bunch of questions. Answer them. Answer it with love. Answer it with the dedication of somebody who's capable and lend you the money that not even your family is capable. So take those questions with the humility and the time that you need to do it. Okay. They're gonna make thousands of questions and maybe the same question, and be aware they're underwriting your deal. They may be seeing something you're not seeing. You make him loss ahead and he may see in it and he's maybe trying to let you know. And that's a kind of thing that we run into some situations where we're trying to raise funds from previous partner and they suddenly say, I don't feel comfortable. And you're like, I'm not going to get offended for that. I want to know why. Because if you don't like that deal and we've done deal in the past, I know you like to make money. I'm for the same. So we're not in the same why. I want to know the why of that. That why can be related to you, to your experience, or maybe to the project. And they will say, Jose, honestly, I don't think this is a good project. I feel like we are going to get into a weird situation. This is not it. So do not take it personally. You may not define the buyer. I've lost a bunch of deals for not having the money, and that's not a problem. I'm pretty sure that happened to you. You handle more leads and more opportunities than cash that you can deploy. Period. It's a mathematical problem. That's why we're here. At some point, you realize that this thing about waiting for my own money until I have it, until I sell it close, until what about if I save? Or, well, I'm not even dinner tonight, so I may close next week. It doesn't work that way. That the avocado toast thing of saving, it's not going to take you to this market. Forget about it. You cannot buy a house because you're saving at Starbucks. Sorry, it doesn't work. This is not a market. You can do in the penny stock market. You can do in the S&P 500. You can do that in crypto. But in real estate market, the title is only one. Title usually here, and depending on your market, can be $200, $300, $400, $500,000. Just one title. And we're talking about buying an asset in US in general. And if you compare to Latin America, prices are pretty much the same. Okay, it's not, if you try to have something nice in Latin America, forget about it. You're gonna be seeing something in 50,000. No. The expats already took all those $50,000 house in Latin America, in Belize, in Mexico, in Costa Rica. So take that in consideration. These are the kind of things that when we're scouting for investors, we're trying to understand what they're looking for, what they need, and what are the truly needs of this.
So here's what I would say with this one. You guys already had amazing answers. I don't have that much more to add to it. I guess the only thing I would have to add to what you guys have already said is once you know there's a problem, just say there's a problem. Don't wait until you've already gone past the thing and then tell them about it. That's just such a bad idea. As soon as you know there's a problem, tell them. Like even if their money isn't due for 6 months, just tell them now so that they know, right? And the reason being is then they're going to trust you way more because you're an honest human being. So that's what an honest human being does, right? This is like what I always tell my wholesaling company, like every single day or as many days as I can, is whatever you do, this is like a Warren Buffett quote, and I'm going to butcher it right now, but whatever you do, be okay with it being printed in the newspaper tomorrow. If you do that, everyone's going to trust you always. I know Sarah lives up to that and Jose live up to that because there's no way they got $375,000 in 7 days without living up to that type of standard. It's impossible. So that's my addition to that question based on what you guys already talked about. So, could you share some of the key factors that you believe make your real estate investment projects appealing to private investors? AKA, why should somebody invest with you?
Well, I think that kind of encompasses all the questions, right? So it's multiple things. It's being able to provide an opportunity, own an actual real estate, a hard asset, right? If they're on title, that's not going anywhere. You've talked about, the S&P 500. I completely agree. I mean, I was reading the top 5 companies like Apple, Facebook, Google account for 75% of the market gain. So if you're not buying those companies, that stock is worthless over time. I mean, it's maybe more liquid, you can get out of your position faster, but at the end of the day, you're paying more capital gains. You don't get the benefits of real estate. So real estate, in my opinion, once you look at it in a holistic manner, and you're able to, like we said earlier, identify who your investor is, how are you speaking to them and their investment strategy. I look at it from, the wealth preservation, wealth creation. The wealth preservation people also want to understand the tax benefits, the long-term hold strategy. So I look at it from multiple angles. We always have, an exit strategy to sell the property when the market's great. We have an exit strategy to rent it when the market's not, refinance later or not. It kind of allows you, if you're doing the all equity and allowing the investors to be part of the upside, it allows you to play a much safer game. Yes, it takes a lot more money to do a house. I mean, the average price of a home here is like 600 grand, and then you're gonna spend another $100,000 to remodel it at least. So you're gonna have to raise 700 grand to do one deal. However, once you start doing that more often, your downside is, it's limited unless the house burns down. I mean, make sure you get insurance, but you're not going to lose that money, which is totally possible. So it's really, it's about your experience. It's kind of everything we've talked about. The better, background you have, specifically to me, and why, I would say invest with me, is I used to work for a private equity fund doing a lot of acquisitions, bird dogging, door knocking, cold calling, and then from there transitioned into construction, and then from there transitioned to doing one flip at a time, where I was swinging the hammer, to then doing 2 flips at a time, where I was swinging a hammer with somebody else, to then doing 4 at a time. And once you start scaling the business and doing more flips, is that you have enough opportunity to be shared with other people, and you can hire a site superintendent and put them on a salary, and you can hire somebody that can do, the cold calling, and you can spend money on marketing to find deals. And once you start getting to that level, you can kind of put it all under one company and have it vertically integrated, where you're sourcing your own deals, remodeling it yourself, and allowing you to not, have to be too greedy. Even though you said we're all super greedy here, you don't need to be too greedy, and you can make little bit of fees along the journey and not have to just depend on the wholesale fee because all you do is wholesale, or just depend on the GC fee because all you do is construction, and you gotta change order your client to death because that's how you make money. You can be more lenient because you're participating on the upside, you're participating on the listing. So that's really, how I would say I differentiate myself, and it just, takes time. I mean, I worked for another guy for 3 to 5 years before I started doing my own thing, and it's been 4 years of doing it on my own before I can even sit on this stage and talk about it.
For me, it's just a lot of relationship building, and again, going back to the reputation. If you have a good reputation, people believe in you. We always invite people to come to our work sites. I would say half of the people who are in this room have been at our work sites before. Our Don is welcome. Don, who has invested into our properties, he has the lockbox code to our properties. He can go whenever he wants, and he knows that in any property that he invests in with us, it's just an open book policy. And and yeah, Jose and Alex both talked about the stock market. I think last year was a really rough year for um, our parents. They all lost a lot of money in the stock market. They saw their pensions or their 401ks go down. That's probably what finally convinced my mom to invest with us. She was the last person in our inner circle to invest with us. And I think that that's a lot of leverage. You can talk about what you ask them. I actually pulled my mom's statements out from her mutual fund and showed her that she was making 4.5% on her money over the last 12 months because she wasn't understanding. She said, well, I got 11% last month. And I said, 1 month, but that's not the whole year. You had a really good month last month, but the previous 3 months were terrible. And so, helping people understand that they probably are not making as much money as they can, and that if it's secured against either in an equity position or as a deed of trust, they are, there's no guarantees in real estate or in any investment, but it's a pretty secure position, especially in a market like Denver where properties are appreciating. Most investors, if you have a good product, are not losing money. I'm very proud to say Jose and I have never lost money on a deal. And, I can show that. I can show people, what our numbers are. And I think that that sells itself.
One of the things I will say is for raising capital and doing these businesses, take in consideration the price is related to satisfaction, but also the guarantee of the money where it's at, where when you can prove to your investor, hey, come and see the address. Here's the lockbox. Go and see it. Do you want to go and see title pool, a report of title? They can do their own due diligence. And when they feel that you're helping them to do their due diligence, they're understanding that you're not hiding something. If you ask me for title and I need to pull a report of title, I will do it and I will provide it to you. If you are asking me and you're sending me more questions from your lawyers, well, maybe your lawyer is seeing something that I'm not seeing. And again, I have to try to go back and try to reestablish. I think one of the most important things that we learn about capital raising is you need to have a reputation. There's no doubt about it, but also you have to perform. And you need to be sure that you can perform. If it's your first time, please don't do it. Okay. Partner with somebody. Do not raise somebody else life saving. This is kind of secret situation where you are at. Partner with somebody who can help you. Partner with somebody who has experience. Guess what? It doesn't have to be me. It could go Alex. There's another people doing this in the room. But the main goal is to understand that if you don't know how to raise and you don't know how to flip or you don't know how to invest or deploy cash, look for somebody who can teach you. That's not very hard to learn. It's not impossible to learn. It's just another skill as investor that you need to develop.
My friend Marco Rivera, he's a private money lender. He's also my social media manager, and he told me basically, because he hasn't lent me money yet, but he will eventually. There are three reasons why anyone will invest with you. So I want to break down the categories and then specifically why me. One is the deal itself. Is the deal a good deal? If it's someone who can actually underwrite and stuff like that, that's their first level of protection. The second level of protection is a deed of trust or an equity position, something that's like actually recorded against the county somehow, LLC somehow, paperwork wise, you're actually recorded, your interest is recorded, you're there, you are secure paperwork wise. And the third one is you. Third one, hello. Third one is you. You as a human being, right? And we all hit on this. It's really like your story. Do they connect with you? Do you have a reputation? That's why I also like personally, I've also lent out money. I like lending out money to people who have social media followings or are really big in my communities like Sub2 and Astro Flipping because they have a reputation as well. And if they screw you over, they screw over that reputation, right? And that is more valuable than gold is your reputation in the marketplace, in real estate in general, right? So those are like the three things that I'll always break down into. In terms of investing with me, like it's going to be very similar to these guys. I mean, my investments mainly are buy and holds. These guys are fix and flippers and developers, right? The only thing that's like any different than any of us is whether you connect with our story versus somebody else's story. We all have the experience. We've all raised private money, given capital back, and we do it constantly, right? And yeah, and that's like my story. I would like probably just go through what I've done in the past, the buy and holds I've done, how much other people have made from investing with me, and just go over like my story in real estate. It's like that's what I usually do, especially it's like here's my development from wholesaling up to creative financing. I did a flip, I didn't like it. I made money, but it was just such a waste of time for me and what I wanted to do. But I've done a lot of these different things and I can show you guys the past record. I'll show you guys to other of my private money lenders who've made money, right? And I'll even have them tell them about one time when it went bad or where they didn't lose money, but like it went longer than it did before, right? So I'm keep myself as an open book, but really like all of us have amazing experiences, and it's just going to be really like whoever you connect with in the end, generally on who you'd rather invest with. Um, so can you guys describe like a particular situation where you faced like resistance from a private investor? Because some people in here, I know a few people in here right now are trying to raise money and they probably want to know like, okay, guys, so what do I actually say? How do I actually like that's I love all what you guys said, but like now how do I actually apply it? So like if we can go into like a specific situation where you were trying to raise money and you were getting some pushback, what was that pushback and how'd you deal with it?
So I can speak to myself like right now. When I first started, it was just you didn't have enough experience, so I just started a construction company, started working as a general contractor, and just doing bathroom remodels, kitchen remodels, and then eventually gaining the trust to be like, oh, so you can do work. I was doing remodels for Zillow Home Offers when that program still existed, and was just going through the ringer, dealing with a corporate company that was just manhandling contractors and survive that. And like, well, if you can report to a public traded company and get the job done, you can be trusted with the flip. So it's mostly been experience and execution. Like Jose said, like you have to prove that you can execute and actually get the job done. I definitely on my most recent and largest project, it was a 6-unit townhouse project, and we messed up on some construction items. And point blank, there was handrails that we put too high, and I had to go in there and do it myself. So it's like, as cool as it might seem to raise money, sometimes you're gonna have to put on the tool belt and get the job done. And it's that kind of attitude that investors, once you see that kind of pushback, if they see you get in the trenches, I mean, people make mistakes, but as long as you're willing to solve the problem, I always share my problems, but I have already thought about 3 solutions. And as I'm sharing the problem, I'm like, this is how we're going to solve that one. This is how we're going to solve this one. Are you okay with that strategy? And then most recent pushback is, as you talk to family offices and funds, might sound like I've done a lot, but it really isn't big enough for them. So it's maybe, like you said earlier, just getting maybe greedier and like asking for bigger check. Because it's apparently easier to ask for 20 million than it is for like 200,000 from these guys. Doesn't make any sense in my mind. It's kind of backwards, but it's true. You do get into different rooms. They're in the business of deploying capital, and they rather deploy it all at once with you if they trust you than having to deal with 4 or 5 guys asking for $4 million, $5 million. So that's right now the biggest resistance. And to be honest, if anybody knows how to like overcome that objection of like how to get $20 million from a family office, I'd greatly appreciate that. That's kind of what I'm working on.
Whiskey.
Whiskey.
A lot of whiskey.
Let's go find a really big project.
Yeah, exactly.
How about that? Most people start out asking for private money from friends and family. And those are actually the hardest people, I believe, to get money from. My mom, who actually lives on my property and watched us be successful, refused for years. Same with my dad. There were a few people, but I mean, they're the first people to shut the door in your face. And I don't know and they will only come once they see a track record of success. Strangers are much more open because they see it just as a business transaction. They just want to make their money. And I think, going back to one of the first things that Jonas said is you have to understand that you are not asking them for a favor. You are offering them an opportunity to make money. And if you can help them understand that, then it's a lot easier. Not apply to family and friends. That does not, the logic doesn't really apply to those relationships when you're asking money. But for strangers, if they see the opportunity, then they're willing to give the money. It's not you saying, "Oh, I need $50,000 to do this project." No, I have a great project. This is why it's going to be great. This is my projected profit, and this is how much money you're going to make. That's a business deal.
One of the things is when we try to work with them is we try to let them understand the risk of the project, try to underwrite the entire deal with them, educate them the deal, understand possible exit strategy, what happens if we don't sell, what happens if something happen, what happens if we detect the X materials, what happens if we mess something. We go through the entire process. At some point, they basically let you do the work, and they can come and check, and they can come and see. That for us has been magical to start building up, that rapport with them. When investor tells you no, I personally tend to be, okay, why? Because I don't get offended for that. I get offended if you tell me no because it's no. Oh, okay, cool. I won't present it to you again. But I need to know because you may be saving me from something. You may be seeing something on my underwriting that I'm not seeing. Maybe I'm making a mistake in the process. Why not to pay attention to that? So when you find a kind of rejection, this is something related to your track record or your lack of experience, I think you only found you don't have the lender yet. Period. If you feel nobody has experience to do something that hasn't been done, especially if you're in a kind of situation where you're raising for 20, you raise for 12. Well, managing the project between 12 and 20 is not very magical different. They just don't see the capabilities on you. Maybe you just need another source of capital, because
Or a partner.
more hair. Yeah, exactly. I can partner with you.
You have more hair and he has more hair.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, all of it all relates down to you don't understand that person enough, in my opinion. It's always you don't understand what this person is actually looking for. And I've had it, I mean, these guys have probably had it where they've had private investors kind of give them the runaround, where they just say they're going to invest. And then it's like, okay, I need the wire Friday. You ready? Yes. Friday comes and they're not answering your calls anymore, right? When that's happened to me, I like having the philosophy of somehow it's my fault, even if maybe it is their fault, but I'm going to somehow like, okay, what in my process was wrong there? And when in my process, what I've noticed is I didn't really understand them that well. I just was like, here's a way to make money. And they're like, oh, great. I love making money, right? But I didn't know that much about them. So I really like bringing it always back to this, like understand who you're talking to. It's always going to relate something back to that. There are like a million different reasons why you could be getting resistance, but you really got to understand, what are you looking for? What is it that you want? Like maybe you shouldn't be a private money lender. Maybe you do want the headache of being a landlord. I don't know. Like it's like, I mean, I technically want that headache, right? So I don't know. It depends on you. So it's just matching that stuff together. And this is a question, I didn't put it down on the list. I hope you guys forgive me, but I think this is a really good question because you guys are mentioning it. But I think that would be really useful to a lot of people. How do you raise private money if you've never done a deal before? Like, you guys sort of answered that a little bit with partnering up. I just want to know, like, how do you even have that conversation? How do you give yourself the confidence to have that conversation? You've never done a deal before. You're trying to raise private money for a multifamily fund or for a fix and flip project that you're doing, but you've never done a deal. How do you raise that money? What's the right way to do it? And what recommendations do you guys have?
I would say point blank, you don't. So you first start by stacking up, small wins to basically have, a stack of undeniable proof of why you will be successful and why their money is safe with you. You can go and leverage a partner, like we said, but you're going to be just, speaking on behalf of them when it's really not right, and you should probably just be setting the meeting to have him come talk directly and keep speaking to a minimum. But you really don't. You don't go from, I haven't done a flip ever in my life, and then go ask for $250,000 from somebody, or even $50,000, or even $10,000, because like Jose said, you're talking about people's life savings. Even when you're talking to people with like wealth preservation, do you think they got there by losing $250,000 betting on a kid that doesn't know what they're doing? No. Even though they can afford it, it's still $250,000. It's a lot of money that you're risking here. That people work years to make that kind of money. So at the end of the day, you just don't. You put in the effort. Like Jose said, you start sweeping job sites just to be part of the process. You get in and work with the contractors and do a small kitchen or a small bathroom and learn it that way. You go door knocking. I would say if your intention is to eventually raise money, and get into fix and flipping as an investor, start off by understanding where to source deals. If you source deals, the money will find you. They just won't partner with you yet. They won't give it to you. They'll invest, and then they'll be like, oh, this guy knows where to get good deals. They'll come and buy the next deal off of you. And you do that enough times, you can maybe then ask them, well, what if instead of giving me that wholesale fee, I become your equity partner, and you show me the ropes, right? Show me what it takes to register an LLC, open the bank account, put together the operating agreements, show me kind of the paperwork and the legal ways on how to properly even take money, because you can't just have them Zelle you the money to your personal account and then you start buying stuff. That's also not how that works. So you kind of got to start from where do I find the deals? How do I find them? It's cold calling, it's door knocking, and then from there, showing that and sharing that with other people that have money, and then doing business that way, and then slowly kind of working your way in.
So kind of what Alex is saying is like you have to bring value to someone for them to be willing to partner with you, to lend them your name. And that could be sourcing the deal. That's of tremendous value to someone like us, where we don't necessarily have the time to go out and find all of our deals. It's great when someone says, hey, I've got this great off-market deal. It's right up your alley. That just saved me like weeks and weeks of finding my next deal. So find where you can bring value to someone so that they can incorporate you in their team and show you those ropes. This isn't necessarily on capital raising, but in terms of partnering, there was someone who we met. We were trying to wholesale a house. We ended up doing it ourselves. The Downing property, there are several of you who have been there. It was his first time doing a flip. His agent brought him to the house, and I said, no, you're not doing this flip. This is a really big job. You cannot do this. But I want to partner. I want to show you how to do this. If you're really serious about doing your first flip, let's do it. Let's go buy a condo together. You bring the funds, the down payment. I'll get the hard money loan with my reputation. I'll show you how to source materials, how to find workers, and then we'll split the equity. So that's what we did, and now he's doing his second flip, and he just acquired his third. He did have his own funds. He took out a HELOC to bring the funds for the first down payment. So that's not necessarily capital raising, but that was a way for him to learn how to do this and to leverage my experience. But I still had, a nice equity position in the project, even though I actually wasn't doing the work. They were his workers. He found his own. I helped him find workers. He brought in a GC friend of his own, but I brought, a lot of the know-how. And now he's doing great, and he can go out, and now his dad invested in him, and he has another friend who's investing in his third property. So there are ways to do it, but you have to find ways that you can bring value to that partner so that they would be willing to invest in you.
In terms of if it's your first time raising private money, I think we echoed it here already. I'm kind of realizing we answered the question before I asked it, which is definitely partner up with somebody on how to do it. Like, I don't have much flipping experience. I've actually only done one flip, and just because I wanted to test it out, say that I've done a flip, and then I was like, this just isn't for me. I don't like it as much as wholesaling. I'm much more that type of guy. I like fishing. I'm a fisherman, right? But obviously what I did was like, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing, so I'm gonna find somebody in the Bay Area. That's where I came from. I moved here pretty recently. And then we're just going to do the project together. I'll put in half the money. They put in half the money. They do all the work. I found the deal. And we split it 50-50. And we made a decent amount of money. I think we both made 20K or something like that. And so I think just in general, partnering up with whatever you want to do is the right way to do it. If you're looking to raise private money, first off, I want you also to be thinking about what are you doing it for, right? These guys have flips and developments. That's why they're raising private money. I'm raising private money to do buy and holds. Some people in here are raising private money in order to lend. The point is, also be calculated in who you're going to partner up with. Make sure they're a good person, get their records, vet them too, right? And make sure that they are the type of people you want to be doing business with and that they've done deals and that they're actually in the strategy of what you in the end want to be doing. So I just want to add that. So we're at about 7:10. I wanted to see we were going to do a Q&A session. I just wanted to see raise your hand if you want to do a Q&A session versus us continuing. I still got like 8 questions. So raise your hand if you want to ask us questions. Or, okay, we got 1. Raise your hand if you just want us to keep asking questions and keep going from the list. Okay, don't raise your hand if you just want to end this whole thing, like, right? So, who raise your hand if you have a question you'd like to ask. I'm gonna do the Q&A and just see how long we go, and then maybe we'll go to the question. So if you have a question, come up here, just because I wanna give it to you because I gotta like pass this mic around. I'm gonna just do it like that.
Come up there.
Yeah, just come up here. Also introduce yourself, say your name, say your business, say what question you have, and then we'll go there.
Hi, my name is Greg. I'm an investor and do other stuff. I have one question that I could have asked from right there, but yeah, my voice is big enough to do it without it, so
We're recording.
very well. I have 2 questions. You mentioned like 70 or 75K from a fund, and you mentioned 250K, and you didn't really mention a number, but maybe 10. But what is your number for the investor? Like, what is your
I don't really have, I'd say probably 5K for me. I pool investors together sometimes for my different ones. I guess that would be my answer.
Depends. So it really depends on the relationship. So if it's a college buddy of mine, friend of mine that I know, I will let it go as down as 25K, $50,000. Minimum, it does have to be 250,000 because if you start looking at like the equity capital stack, you don't need 10 people on there because it just turns into a mess and accounting's a mess and K1s and all that filing is a nightmare. You're gonna have to do 10 emails, 10 filings. So I really try to keep it maximum 4 or 5 partners on a deal. So it's not so much minimum, it's like how many partners do we want to have?
Ours is more deal based. So, we're typically looking for if it's we're looking for 15% of the down payment, which is what it typically is, and then, holding costs. So it could be anywhere from a minimum of about $50,000 to $60,000 up to about 250.
So what I might do is because I think it might be hard for everyone to come up here. What I'm gonna do is just raise your hand. I'll pick on you. Then you ask the question. You're gonna have to be really loud if you're in the back, or you got to come up here, one or the other, and then I'll repeat the question probably because I don't want to. Because the issue is this camera is facing us right now. So you raise your hand. Say yes. So just come up here just so that at least I can hear you, and then I'm gonna repeat the question. Or worse, where it's all the way up here, or just in the mic.
Okay, so if I am getting into private money lending and people are coming to me asking if I'm getting into private money lending and people are coming to me who need money asking me what my rates are, is it per deal? Are you looking at the deal as far as term and the amount and an exit strategy and all that and then working that back out to tell them their rate? Or do you just kind of have a flat 12% and 2 points?
So funny, I have lent out money, but I wouldn't consider myself a lender. Usually I'd be the one asking you what your rates are. But for me, it's just what's your money worth to you, right? That's what it is in the end. I know that's an unsatisfying answer, but for me to lend out, so I would say I would do 2 things since you're actually trying to be a lender. One is research your competition. What is your competition lending out money for, right? I would say that. And I'm kind of, because I'm not a lender, I think the best thing to do is ask lenders. But for me, I would see research your competition. I would be really vetting the person you're lending to. How much experience do they have? That has to do with the risk. I would say it's related to you, the risk of the person, whether you're going to be able to get your money back, what your competition is, and then also what is it worth to you? So for me, I don't even really want to lend you my money. Like if somebody said they want money from me, I don't really want to give it to them. So I'm gonna say something like 15% and 15% of the deal, right? Nobody's taken me up on that offer yet, right? It's because that's a terrible deal. If someone actually did take me up on the offer, I'd be like, damn, okay, maybe I'll actually look at it. But I would say those three things are what come to my mind.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely personal preference, but I would say stick to like client, collateral, and title. So client, you're gonna underwrite their experience. Have they done this before? Collateral, the deal, like you said, right? Is this property in Pueblo? Is this a property in Denver proper? And then title meaning are you going to be in first position or second position? If you're in second position, that's going to be riskier, and you're probably going to be in the 15%, and that's not crazy if you're in second position. So that's like the three criteria I would stick to.
So when you're doing the 15%, are you also having origination points on that?
It
Yeah,
dep
repeat that backwards.
So question was, if you're doing the 15%, would you be doing loan origination points? Depends. No, I mean, you could do a 1 in 15. I mean, the loan origination points are usually typically used to like buy down the rate, right? So I'd be like, okay, I'll give you a 2 and you're offering me 15%, I'll give you a 1 in 14 instead, or a 2 and 12 to try to buy down the rate. So that would just depend on your strategy there.
I can just tell you what we typically pay ours when we're giving the deed of trust and a promissory note against the property, because ours are typically project-based lending. Ours is 1 point origination between 10 and 12%. That's what we pay.
Was that satisfactory? You want to follow up?
Well, it's really hard to hear you two from the back and kind of you. So your last comment that you or question that you answered in regards to, I think the number of, was it number of partners?
Yeah.
And then you were talking about K1s. Can you just briefly summarize what you said about that? And all I heard was it's a nightmare, and I'm like, what?
So your K1s are going to be required to file taxes because the entity that buys the property does not file taxes. It does not post a gain because that entity is just really meant for like safeguarding you personally from any liability, and all the profits are just like a pass through. So the money, in a sense, you set up the LLC. That LLC will have a bank account. It's a single purpose LLC. It'll be around for like 12 months, right? Hopefully. So when if you're doing a fix and flip, you'll be done in like a year. All the money gets funded into that bank account. It gets spent from that bank account, and then once the property is sold, goes into that bank account, and then you do your distributions from there. The filing that you need to report to the IRS will then be a K1 that you file individually to each investor. So each investor will get a K1. So that way you can just close down that entity. You can be the one that created the company. You can be the one that's on the Secretary of State as the registered agent. You can be the one that's on the bank account. But once you file the K1, I'm not the one paying your tax bill. It all just flows right back to you. Unless I'm like taking a profit share or anything like that and I'm taking some of the proceeds. But I'm not basically seen as the investor that made $500,000. I'm only seen for my portion or my prorated based on my investment.
Or because it just gets really
Right, so that's why I cap it at 4. Yeah, it just becomes more of a accounting and administration nightmare because you got to do 4, 5, 6. If you do 10, you're gonna do 10 filings.
Who else has questions? Anybody else have any questions? Come up here. Or yell it at me, whichever one you want to do. Also introduce yourselves. I should make I don't remember if I was saying that. Introduce yourself, say your name, say your business, all that good stuff.
Vonzel Sawyer Jr. Can you hear me a little bit better there? There we go. Vonzel Sawyer Jr. I work with Zell Investments and BBS Contracting, and we're a national assignment company. We only deal in commercial and multifamily. And so my question is more or less, and we've done syndication. We've been doing syndication since the beginning of last year. And yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me better? Is that better? Awesome. Yeah, let's go. So my question is more or less a market question, right? So we've been doing syndication since the beginning of last year. We started off as wholesalers doing single family home, went into multifamily and commercial, and we noticed that this is more of a market question, that when we got into the first quarter of this year, a lot of our private equity guys that we have relationships with got really tight, right? Got really tight with their money. It was harder to put together a deal with different investors, and these are guys that I've known for like 6, 7 years. We've done deals together. So my question is what do you do when you find private equity folks that you're dealing with that you have a relationship with? Um, what do you do when you find them kind of getting a little tight because of the market and just whatever else? Like, what's some of your recourse to um, them not wanting to spend money at the time, being a little bit more hesitant because the market is the way that it is? Does kind of make sense?
I feel like this is a you question, especially. This is an Alex question. I got, yeah.
So for those, I mean, you're just gonna have to find like a better deal. It's got to be a deeper deal. You got to have, it can't be non-recourse. You're gonna have to have, your, for lack of a better term, your butt on the line, right? And you just got to show them that you don't like this deal because it's 10%. Show them a deal that it's 20%, and then they'll give you the money, right? So I think right now it's just getting extremely competitive because you can put your money in a savings account and it'll make 5.5% backed by the U.S. government, right? A treasury bond will do that. So if you try to present a rental property that does 6%, okay, you maybe get like the tax write off and the depreciation against your other earnings, but 6% doesn't really move the needle. You can have one thing go wrong in that house, and then there you go. There's no more 6%. So I think right now you're just gonna need to find deeper deals, better returns in order to get them to get off the sidelines because they don't want to risk it, right? Cash is king right now. So if you're not finding deeper deals, it's a sign that you got to give them better returns.
Cool. You want to follow up to that, or are you good?
That's pretty much it.
Cool.
Actually, what I will let you to understand is that they change price. They may not even realize it, but definitely they change price, and you need to help them to figure out what is the new price for that money. You need better deals, and you need to offer more money to offer more, but have an honest conversation with them and ask them no problem, why is it not? Is deals are getting too risky? Is the economy in general? Because the economy in general, cool. We understand Jerome Powell is increasing the Fed rates, and he's definitely the influencer of the economics. Nobody can influence the economics like him, but the number still works. It's not the economy only, so it's not where we have a 3/4 point increase. We have the same quarter point that everybody's been benching in the last 16 months. So they changed something, and which is fine. It's understandable. The only thing is get a good conversation. I'll encourage you to have some drinks with them and tell them what's going on, why you are backing up, and you need to redo this draw, and let me know what's the new price. Well, I'll source it.
If I can say one more thing, because I would also maybe employ a little reverse psychology, be like, if it can pencil in this economy with those kind of rates, that deal's just going to only do better, right? Because right now we're at record high interest rates, might keep going higher. So if you can find good deals that are penciling really well now and cash flowing, you'd be like, well, listen, man, in the next 5 years when we refinance at a lower rate and property values that just seem to keep going up, we're going to do very well. So maybe a little reverse psychology would work.
Cool. Anything else? No. Good. Cool. Any other questions? Anybody got any questions? Remember, say your name and say what business you're in.
My name is Anicia, and I am with Elegant Investments Unlimited. That's my company. I am new to real estate. I'm new to real estate, and it's something that I'm passionate about. I currently have around $10,000 saved up because I want to start investing, but I'm not too sure how to get started exactly. I'm not sure if I should save up more money and just use it for a down payment, or use that money to market myself, or buy a mentorship, or try to find partners and try to bring them deals and use the money to, sorry, I'm nervous.
Yeah, you're doing good.
Use that money to find them deals and bring it to them. So I would just like to know, how do you guys think I should move forward with the money that I have?
So this is like the most common question I get in my inbox with social media, right? Like I'm new, I've got $10,000. What do I do? So really, it's going to take a back and forth. All of us are. It depends on you. Who are you? What are you good at? Right. So like first off, like I'll start by saying there are three resources in real estate. There's time, money, and reputation. Right. You don't have reputation, so you either have time or money. Right. So and also you got to realize it depends on who you ask. I'm very partial to wholesaling because that's how I make most of my money, right? They're going to be partial to flipping and development, right? Because that's how they make most of their money. So to start off, if it's okay with you guys, I kind of want to give it back to her and just be like, what are you really good at? Like, and also what are you trying to achieve real quick? I need you to answer those two questions, and then I think we can answer your question a lot better.
My end goal is to own rental properties. And what was the other question?
And like, what are you really good at?
I think I'm really good at talking to people.
Okay. Okay. So here's what my answer based on what you've just said so far. Your goal is to own rental properties. I would normally also ask you the follow-up question, why do you want to own rental properties? Because we've already discussed there's like a whole headache with them. What is your actual end goal and why is that your end goal, right? We can get into that later, but I just want to I'm gonna just assume that's the right goal for you right now, and we can talk later about like whether that is even the right goal, right? But let's just assume that is the right goal for you. So my opinion of the best way to start always like is I'm assuming you have a lot of time. You have a lot of time? Okay. I think and again, this is just what happens with me because I'm partial to this, is learning at least the wholesaling process so that you can find your own deals. I think is the best way to do it because then you can, as soon as you have that, you can start finding your own rental properties, right? I think that is the most valuable thing to any of us. So then what you can do is if you actually learn how to wholesale, like that's actually what you learn how to do. When I say learn how to wholesale, I really mean how to find a deal. You find a deal that's a buy and hold, right? And then you bring it to any of us. If it's a deal, we'll underwrite it for you and we'll be like, I'll buy it. I'll buy it right now. And then I'll show you everything. I'll show you the paperwork. I'll show you exactly what I'm doing with it, how I found the renter. From there, you learn how to do the buy and hold process. So now you have both how I find my rentals and also you have a partner you're willing to do rentals with until you feel comfortable enough where you can do it on your own. That would be my answer to that question.
And the fee that she would have earned.
Yeah, the referral fees that you earn while you do that. I mean, I might be impartial to flipping, but I would probably recommend the same. $10,000 does not get you anything in Denver. Prices here like 300,000, so yeah, that's on the low end. So you'll need at least 10% of the purchase price. So you're already short there to purchase. And then on the back end, you don't want to be, you don't want to be risking the farm with your $10,000. You need to save up more. And I think his strategy is great. You should invest in the tools to do wholesaling. For instance, he's got a great CRM that gets you deals called Zapier. Zapier.
Zapier's the other one. We chose a terrible name for this CRM, guys. You're gonna look up Zapier. That's a great software for integrating different programs. Not the CRM. Zapier. It's like spelled the exact same way, except Zypier. Can talk about it to me or look it up online, but.
So I would spend money on that. Vulcan 7 is another cool software that gets you all the skip tracing for numbers. Costs you $150 a month. And then what I would also do is just download ChatGPT, pay for the pro version, and ask it to give you scripts on how to talk to people. You can have it be your coach. Every time you come up with an objection and you're hearing people deny you, you can put it in there and it'll tell you better than I could, or maybe just as good as me. But it will coach you through it and you'll get very comfortable on the phones to find those deals. With your $10,000, if you want it to be in complete control of the deal, maybe you can risk it on earnest money so you can tie up the deal, because 10 grand does get you enough leverage to buy 90% of the deals that you'll come across, and your money is completely safe. It gets held in a title company, and if you cancel the contract within the 8 days of when your earnest money is due, or when your inspection deadline is due, you'll get the money back, no harm, no foul. Hey, but you will be in the driver's seat then Where when you bring me the deal, not saying that I would, but there's no way for me to get around you. You own the contract, you have equitable interest in that contract, and you can now sell that contract and make your money. So that's how I would like spend your 10,000.
I think wholesaling is a great way to go. What you have right now, the value you can bring to people is your time and your talent. You said you're great at talking to people. That is what real estate is all about. If you get on the phone with an agent and you're able to talk to them and they bring you a deal that somebody like us can buy, that is a great talent, and that is something that we don't have time to do maybe. And so, your $10,000, yes, you could do a mentorship, but there are free programs too. There's Jonah does stuff of Zooms that I don't know if they're open to the public or they not. Jonas is not, but the elephant challenge is open to the public, isn't it? There's one called the elephant challenge. It's all about doing agent outreach, learning how to talk to agents. You can do live calls with agents on these Zooms with 50 people. So you've got the pressure on you. You learn how to do it. So there are things that you don't. They're really good resources that you don't have to spend your money on, but I really like the idea of using your $10,000. You find a deal, you lock it up, you can wholesale it. Fees are $5 to $25 to $50,000. I mean, he's had some pretty sweet assignment fees. We just did a deal together that was supposed to close today.
Thank you.
Well, actually, it's supposed to close yesterday. It's supposed to close today. I think it's gonna fund tomorrow, Aaron. But you have your time. That's your value. Your time and your talent. That's your value that you can offer to a lot of people in this room. So, talk to me afterwards. Are you in the elephant challenge? You're not. Is anybody here? I don't think anybody in here is in the elephant challenge, but I think that could be a good fit for her if that's something that you're interested in doing.
Only thing to add beside the wholesale is if you're willing to spend that money, it's only for education right now. Because that's the only investment that you're gonna be able to do right now where you're gonna have a maximum return on investment. Okay, you may not say in education, but say in a community, I can tell you the different communities that we belong to. That's most of the people actually they are here. They belong to some kind of community, and that is something important. So if you are committed, if you decide those 10 grand can stay in your bank account, which is very risky to do, I will encourage you to look for education with good community in Denver. You want to have people here that you can come to their meetings, you can get a drink, you can change your business card, you can source deal for them, you can raise capital with them, or for you to partner with them. But I can tell you already, not all those programs has that community. Okay, so do your due diligence, and if you decide to spend that money, the first thing that you should do is education.
I 100% agree. I wanted to add on to that. Yeah, and just one last thing to add on, just for you, just real quick, too, as well. Like, I love the education. Like, if you are going to spend that money, do that. And then also, the one thing is, it is wholesaling eventually. Also, this is something that happens with wholesalers. You'll get addicted to it. So, like, I got addicted to it. I'm like, you know what? Actually, I just like making $50,000 every time, and then I'll buy my own rentals as well. But just something to keep in mind that definitely do the wholesaling if you want those big chunks of cash as well. But if your goal really is that long-term stuff, you can also come to any of us and be like, hey, instead of a wholesale fee, what if like my wholesale fee becomes like part of that project and I actually get some equity in it too. So I just wanted to keep that as like, if really that's your goal, you can also do that. So yeah. Yeah. Who else has questions? We got time for a few more. Does anybody else have any questions? Teresa.
Thanks, guys. This has been great so far. My name's Teresa. My business is Juntos Ventures, which is a capital raising business. Juntos means together in Spanish. And my question for you is, I came in, started in real estate kind of as a lender, and also have kind of found that I really enjoy pairing people with deals that have deals with people that want to invest. So kind of that connector piece, you guys have been talking about raising money for your own deals. Is is someone who is helping you to raise capital, something that you need, want, valuable to you? Are those partnerships that you're interested in creating? And if you have any of those, what do they look like?
That always is somewhat interesting to me. I that like for me right now in my personal business, like I have more than enough private capital just because I'm not focusing as much on it. I'm really like just trying to grow a wholesaling empire at this point because I got addicted to it. I'm like, you know what, this is great. I love this. But yeah, so
I'm sure Jose will say the same, Sarah will say the same as we were definitely looking for that. So on a fund strategy, when you're setting up a fund, there are fees that can be shared with people that help you raise it. So the fund manager typically can charge anywhere from 1.5% to 2% on the total assets under management, which is why, the big guys on Wall Street, they're like, oh, I have $1 billion under management because their fee now is like $100 million, right? They're making good money. So when it comes to connecting, I don't think there's much like spread and margin. If you're helping somebody raise money for just a flip and they need 500K, it's hard to cut you in there because I need to get paid for taking on the risk. The investors need to get paid. I'm already paying 5 or 6% to the agents that are helping me buy and sell this on the back end when I go to sell it, and you're paying another 6% to the buying and selling agent. But on a fund side, I mean, we can definitely talk. I'm looking to raise my fund, and there's only so much time in the day, so you would be able to get a point off of all the dollars you've raised, not for the life of the fund, but at least when the fund gets seeded and invested in, you'd be able to earn at least 1% of whatever you've brought to the table.
What you said.
Right.
That's
We're on the fix and flip side, so the structure will be different. So it will be more based on deal base, but yes, anytime, anywhere. So if you can raise funds and you can bring those funds, obviously that is like offering jet fuel for an airplane. There's no answer there. Okay, yes, all day long. Rates have to be into the range where we can make money, and everybody will have to understand the deal, but 100%.
cool. Anybody else? No, we're good. What time is it right now? Is it 7:30? Oh, all right. Then we're past our time. Well then, guys, thank you guys so much. Are we still open? Like, are we still, or do we have to like kick everyone out or what?
Get drinks.
Get drinks. All right. So we're good. Cool. Get drinks, hang out. We're gonna have a great time. Thank you guys so much for coming. It was a great time. And yeah, thank you guys so much.